My name is Margaret and I'm 70 years old. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but every word is true. I died in my kitchen, and what Jesus showed me about the church changed everything I thought I knew about faith. I was making breakfast. Just a normal Thursday morning. The last thing I remember was reaching for the coffee pot. Then this crushing pain hit my chest like a truck. I couldn't breathe. I tried to call out, but nothing came. My vision went dark and I collapsed right there on the kitchen floor. What happened next is why I'm sharing this story. The pain vanished in an instant. Darkness came, but it felt gentle, peaceful, like being wrapped in warmth. I wasn't in my body anymore, yet I could still think and feel, free from all weight and pain. Then a sound surrounded me, not heard with ears but felt everywhere, a perfect, living note. At that moment, I knew this wasn't the end. Colors began to bloom, unlike anything on earth. Purple like forgiveness, blue like truth, gold like pure love. They moved with meaning, alive with emotion. I felt completely safe, more than ever before. And then, I felt him. Jesus didn't walk up to me. He was just there, like he'd always been there, but I could finally see him. And let me tell you, he wasn't anything like the pictures in church. This wasn't some painting or statue. This was a presence so full of love that I started crying. Except I had no tears because I had no body. But my soul was crying because I'd never felt so completely understood and accepted in my life. That's when he started showing me things. Jesus didn't speak with words. He communicated directly into my understanding. And the first thing he showed me shook me to my core. I saw humanity, not as individual people but as this massive tapestry made of light. Billions of glowing threads all woven together. Each thread was a person's soul. And they were all connected. Every single one. Your thread touched my thread. My thread touched someone else's thread. We were all part of this one enormous fabric of light. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. But then Jesus showed me something that broke my heart. So many of the threads were dim, almost gray. They'd lost their light because people had stopped believing. They'd walked away from God and their threads were dying. Other threads were twisted up in tight, ugly knots. These were people trapped in pride and selfishness. Their threads couldn't shine because they were too focused on themselves. And I watched as cruel acts sent dark waves rippling through the tapestry. When one person chose hatred or violence, it didn't just affect them. It hurt dozens of other threads around them. The whole tapestry suffered. That's when I looked at Jesus and I saw tears in his eyes. Not tears of anger, tears of grief. He was watching his creation hurt itself, and there was such sadness in his face that I felt it in my soul. Jesus showed me that he doesn't sit up in heaven keeping score of our sins. He's not waiting to punish us. He's grieving because we're destroying the beautiful thing he created. We're dimming our own light. We're tying ourselves in knots. And every time we choose darkness over light, it wounds him. Then he spoke to me, not out loud, but I heard him clearly in my spirit. Margaret, look closer. He directed my attention away from the dark, tangled parts of the tapestry, and he showed me the light. I saw a nurse holding the hand of a dying patient. Nobody else was there. Just this tired nurse at the end of a long shift, giving comfort to someone who was alone. And when she did that, her thread blazed with golden light. That light spread out like ripples in water, touching the threads around her. It loosened some of the knots. It brought color back to some of the gray threads. I saw a mother forgiving her son who'd hurt her deeply. The moment she chose forgiveness, this beautiful purple light burst from her thread and washed over his thread. His knot started to loosen. I saw a man sharing his lunch with a homeless person on the street. Such a small act. But the light that came from it was stunning. It sent warm waves through the tapestry that touched hundreds of other threads. Jesus let me understand something crucial. Every act of genuine love sends light through the tapestry. Every moment of real kindness. Every choice to forgive instead of hold a grudge. Every time we put someone else first. These things matter more than we can possibly imagine. The spiritual realm is real. Our choices have weight there. When we choose love, we're literally fighting against darkness. We're adding light to the tapestry. We're helping to heal it. Then Jesus showed me something about the church that absolutely shocked me. He let me see inside churches. I saw people sitting in pews Sunday after Sunday. And so many of them, their threads were barely glowing. They came out of habit. They sang the songs and said the prayers, but their hearts weren't in it. Their faith had become routine, dead, mechanical. Jesus showed me pastors who were more concerned about their reputations than about shepherding souls. Their threads were tangled in pride. He showed me church leaders who turned faith into a business. who measured success by attendance numbers and building size instead of by changed hearts. He showed me people who used the church as a social club, who came to be seen and to judge others, who felt superior because they showed up on Sundays but lived the rest of the week in selfishness and greed. And Jesus wept. He told me, "Margaret, they have made my house a place of dead religion. They follow rules but have forgotten love. They speak my name but do not know my heart." I saw how the church had become a building instead of a movement. It had become an institution instead of a living body. People came to fulfill an obligation instead of to encounter the living God. Jesus showed me Matthew chapter 23 where he rebuked the Pharisees. He said, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs which look beautiful on the outside but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean." He said this is what much of the church has become. Beautiful buildings, polished programs, but inside, spiritually dead. Then he showed me something that gave me hope. There were threads in the church that burned bright. People who truly loved him, who weren't there for show or habit but because they genuinely wanted to know God and serve others. These threads shone like stars, and wherever they went, they brought light. Jesus showed me a woman who'd been attending church for 30 years. She never sang in the choir. She never taught Sunday school. But every week she quietly sought out newcomers and made them feel welcome. She brought meals to sick people. She prayed for others with genuine faith. Her thread blazed with light. He showed me a young man who worked with homeless people during the week. On Sundays he was at church but his real ministry was on the streets. His thread was radiant because his faith wasn't contained to 1 hour on Sunday morning. It flowed through his entire life. Jesus told me something I'll never forget. He said, "The church is not the building. The church is the people who carry my light into dark places. The church is not the ceremony. It is the choice to love when love is hard, to serve when service costs something, to forgive when forgiveness seems impossible." He showed me 1 Corinthians chapter 13. "If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing." Jesus was telling me that you can go to church every single Sunday. You can know the Bible front to back. You can follow every rule perfectly. But if you don't have love, genuine sacrificial love for others, it means nothing. The church has forgotten that its purpose is to be light in darkness, to be hands and feet to a hurting world, to show people what God's love actually looks like in action. Jesus showed me people who never set foot in a church building but whose threads burned bright because they loved others well. And he showed me people who sat in church 3 times a week whose threads were nearly black because their faith was fake, a performance for others to see. He told me about James chapter 2. "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." Dead faith. That's what Jesus showed me in so much of the church. People going through motions, saying the right words, but their hearts are far from him and their actions don't match their claims. Then Jesus showed me the world outside the church. So many lost people, hurting people, people desperate for hope and meaning. And they look at the church and see hypocrisy. They see judgment. They see people who claim to follow a God of love but live lives of selfishness and hate. Jesus showed me that the church has become a barrier between him and the very people he came to save. Instead of being a light that draws people to God, it's often pushing them away. He showed me the grey and tangled threads of people who wanted to believe but couldn't because of what they'd seen in Christians. People who'd been hurt by church leaders. People who'd been condemned instead of loved. People who'd watched Christians say one thing on Sunday and do the complete opposite the rest of the week. And Jesus grieved over every single one of them. He told me, "Margaret, my heart breaks for the lost sheep, but my shepherds are not seeking them. They are comfortable in their buildings counting their congregations. Meanwhile, the wolves devour the flock outside and no one goes to rescue them." Jesus showed me that the mission he gave the church was simple. Go into all the world. Make disciples. Love people. Serve the poor. Care for the sick. Visit prisoners. Feed the hungry. Be his hands and feet. But instead, the church built bigger buildings. Created more programs. focused inward instead of outward, became concerned with comfort and tradition instead of mission and sacrifice. He showed me Matthew chapter 25 where he said, "For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me." And when people asked when they did these things, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Jesus told me that he is found in the broken, the poor, the outcast, the marginalized, the people the church often ignores or judges. When we serve them, we serve him. When we love them, we love him. But the church has become a club for the comfortable, a place where people who already have it together come to feel good about themselves. The messy people, the broken people, the sinful people often don't feel welcome. Jesus reminded me of when he walked the earth. Who did he spend time with? Tax collectors, prostitutes, sinners. The religious people hated him for it. They said he was contaminating himself. But Jesus said he came for the sick, not the healthy, for sinners, not the righteous. The church has forgotten this. It has become focused on maintaining appearances, on looking respectable, on attracting the right kind of people. But Jesus never cared about any of that. Then Jesus showed me what the church is supposed to be. He showed me small groups of believers meeting in homes, really knowing each other, bearing each other's burdens, confessing sins to one another, praying together with genuine faith, supporting each other through trials, celebrating together in joy. He showed me believers scattered throughout their communities like seeds, working regular jobs, living regular lives, but shining with his light wherever they went, being kind to difficult co-workers, generous with their resources, faithful in their marriages, honest in their business, present for their neighbors. He showed me the church as a living, breathing organism, not confined to a building or a service time, but active 7 days a week in hospitals and homeless shelters and schools and offices and neighborhoods. He showed me the book of Acts, the early church, believers who sold their possessions to help others, who met daily in homes, who shared everything they had, who loved each other so radically that people took notice, who faced persecution with joy because their faith was real. That's the church Jesus wants. Not perfect people, but real people. Broken people who've been touched by his grace and can't help but share that grace with others. Jesus told me that time is running out. The tapestry is getting darker. More threads are dimming every day. The knots are getting tighter. And the church is asleep. He showed me Revelation chapter 3 where he spoke to the church in Laodicea. "I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So, because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth." Jesus said this is the state of much of the church today. Lukewarm, going through the motions, comfortable, complacent, and it makes him sick. He's calling his church to wake up, to remember why it exists, to stop focusing on buildings and programs and budgets, to start focusing on people and love and sacrifice. Every small act of kindness matters. Every prayer prayed in faith makes a difference. Every moment we choose to love instead of judge, to forgive instead of condemn, to serve instead of be served sends light through the tapestry. We don't have to do big dramatic things. Jesus showed me that the kingdom of God is built through small faithful acts of love. A kind word to someone hurting, a meal shared with someone lonely, a listening ear for someone struggling, money given to someone in need. These things look small to us, but they are huge in the spiritual realm. Jesus also showed me that we're all connected. What I do affects you. What you do affects others. We're not isolated individuals. We're threads in one tapestry. When we shine, we help others shine. When we choose darkness, we pull others down. That's why the church is so important. It's supposed to be a community of light bearers. People encouraging each other, sharpening each other, holding each other accountable, spurring each other on to love and good deeds. But it only works when it's real. When people are honest about their struggles. When leaders are humble enough to admit they don't have all the answers. When everyone understands that we're all broken people saved by grace and we're all on this journey together. Jesus showed me Ephesians chapter 4. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. The church is supposed to be unified, not by agreeing on every little doctrine, but by being united in love for God and love for people. By focusing on what matters most. Instead, the church has split into 1,000 denominations, fighting over minor issues, judging each other, claiming to have the only right way. And meanwhile, the world looks at this division and wants nothing to do with it. Jesus doesn't care about denominations. He cares about hearts. He cares about whether we actually love him and love others, or whether we're just playing religious games. Then Jesus told me something that changed everything. He said I had to go back. My time wasn't finished yet. I had a mission. He said, "Margaret, you've seen the truth. You've seen the state of my church and the state of the world. You must go back and tell them. Not everyone will listen. Many will think you're crazy, but some will hear. And for those few, it will make all the difference." I didn't want to leave. Being in his presence was the most incredible experience of my existence. There was no pain there, no fear, no confusion, just perfect love and peace. But I understood. I had a job to do. The return was violent, like being slammed back into my body. Suddenly I could feel everything again. The cold floor under me, the pain in my chest, the sound of sirens in the distance. My neighbor had found me and called 911. The paramedics were working on me when I came back. They said my heart had stopped for several minutes. They called it a miracle that I survived. But I knew it wasn't luck. I was sent back on purpose. The doctors couldn't explain my recovery. My heart should have been severely damaged. But within days I was fine. Physically I was back to normal. But spiritually everything was different. I couldn't return to my old life, sitting in church and going through motions. I had seen too much, understood too deeply. So I changed. I reached out to the hurting, listened to my neighbors, served the homeless, prayed more, and spoke less of empty things. I shared my story, though some doubted me, calling it imagination. But others truly heard, and I saw it in their eyes, the awakening to a deeper truth, that life is more, that love is powerful, that our choices matter. At 70, I don't know how much time I have left, but I know my purpose. I am to be light, to love well, to live my faith. Jesus showed me the truth. The church is not a building, it is people. We must return to real faith, real love, real sacrifice. I've seen what faith can be, and I choose to shine.